Hello world and welcome to Code or Not to Code. I'm Millie Eva, and as always I'm very happy to be here today, especially since I'm here with Stefan. How are you doing?
It's C# time. I'm doing excellent.
It absolutely is C# time. If you're new to the show, the two of us meet every other week and code together in C#. We're currently working on our .NET tool. We have like a nullable reference types migrator that we're also going to show you a little bit later on, because today we're going to have a look at how we can utilize editor configs for our tool. But yeah, before we get into the fun part, please have a look at our GitHub page, because there are loads of social medias that you're very welcome to follow, especially if you want to keep up to date with upcoming shows and upcoming content, or just, I don't know, random fun facts, or if you just want to reach out. We always love to connect. So please give us a follow so you don't miss a show.
Eric never seems to miss one.
Hello, Eric. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us again. I hope your party was nice last time. I remember you had to run off to some celebration. But yeah, we're very happy to have you back here on this show. It's always really good to have you and have some backup. All right. So good. Now that Eric's here, we can also start with our trivia section, can't we? Because we've brought it back.
Trivia time indeed. Okay, now I was about to enter trivia.net. No.
Maybe next time.
I'm zoning out. What's Sharplab? Oi. Okay.
Wow. That's like your favorite page.
Yes. I know, just embarrassed myself.
Yeah. I've never seen you struggle with that. So there you go. There's a first time for everything.
Usually this is my homepage when I start the browser.
I know, right? Yeah.
I should make this the new tab page.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Anyway, last time we talked about the different ways and a bit of the evolution of how you could check your arguments for null. For example, we have a static void my method, and maybe we pass in a string text, and how to validate that text, maybe before trying to index it, because, well, if we pass in null, we will get a null reference exception. So maybe we do an argument. I mean, that's now the latest way how to do it is an argument null exception for if null, pass it in, and now this throws if we were to invoke this method with something that is null. And yes, we get a warning here because we pass in null to something that is not annotated as null, and then throw indeed. Because if we weren't to throw an argument null exception, we will get a nasty null reference exception where we try to dereference it. So we want to avoid that and notify the user, the consumer of this API as early as possible, because, well, this could also be in a constructor of a method, and then maybe this constructor just sets some properties or just some private fields that then later on through other methods are accessed, so that it may throw rather late. But, well, developer errors should be surfaced as early as possible. And all of the argument exceptions and derived exceptions like argument null exception and argument out of range exceptions, those are all API misusage exceptions to indicate, hey, you shouldn't pass in null here. Maybe we could also have something like an argument exception throw if null or white space. So we are not allowed to pass in a string that is either empty or consists only of white spaces. There must be some text included, or also if we have some integers, could also be a number. Maybe with an argument out of range exception, we could say, okay, this must be throw if negative. So we only allow positive numbers, maybe something like, let's say this is an index, and we want to validate it very early so that we don't pass -1.
Yep.
But how do we do proper argument validation in iterator methods and asynchronous methods? Do you remember what an iterator method is?
I suppose it's a method that iterates somehow. Wait, you said two things: iterator method, or what was the other one?
Async methods.
Async methods. So maybe it's quite similar to an async method.
From an
Oh my
execution
God.
perspective, it's actually, well, from an implementation detail,
Yeah.
they are actually quite similar.
There you go. So it's kind of like that.
How they implement it under the hood. Now, how
Easy.
the usage is quite different, but they do have a lot of similarities. Now, an iterator method is when you have a method that returns an enumerable. Let's say
Yep.
we produce an enumerable string. And, oops. And now we can, let's pass in, how do we do that? Well, we first need a using. And let's say we can yield return things. Well, strings, of course, but we can yield return some text. And maybe what we could do, for example, we get in an integer, let's say a number. Now we do a for loop over these numbers. Let's say int e is a number. Maybe let's call this start and int count. So in our for loop, we start at the start. We say as long as I is less than
Count.
Start plus count, we do I plus plus.
Okay.
What am I doing wrong? This must be semicolons. And for these, we now yield return, let's say the string iteration, and we pass in the I maybe.
What's yield return again?
So this yield return is now similar to if you have an async and a wait, which turns a method to an async method. Now yield return turns a method into an iterator method. So when we call this method, let's do a start. Let's start at 10 and do a count of 10.
Yep.
And nothing really is executed. Let's say I do a console.writeLine in here and say start and also end. Although we call this method, nothing is executed. Because such an iterator method that has lazy evaluation. No, that's not lazy evaluation, my bad. That's deferred execution. So let's store this enumerable of string in a field, in a variable. What do we call this? Sequence, because it's a sequence of strings. Now, we don't do anything with it. It's not evaluated. Only when we start executing this. So if we were to put this, for example, in the for each now, and we say string item in sequence.
Yep.
Now it is iterated. Oops, I should do an end at the end. And now see, although, well, we don't really do anything with the item, but what happens under the hood really is that C# from the sequence gets the enumerator. And then in a while loop, actually, why am I writing this myself? I can just ask C# the compiler to show this. I just need to find it. So this is now basically my method doesn't really, well, it still exists, but no longer in this form. The compiler now generates, well, this state machine that we have, so that because this yield return, we enter this method more or less multiple times. So we see something like move next. This is the implementation of the enumerable or of the enumerable of the what's with naming today? Enumerator, excuse me. So that's the implementation of the enumerator that has a current item and a move next. And in the move next, we see, for example, when we basically, that's now our state machine. Here is our start. Now, here we do this iteration. Here's our string interpolation that we do here is here. And then at the end, well, we do an end. And return true means there was an item. So when you call move next and that returns true, then current has this as an item. And if we do false after a move next, that means current should no longer be accessed because it's now this enumerable now has been iterated through. And then on the caller side, what this for each is turning to is we get the enumerable, we get the enumerator. Then we have this loop. While move next returns true, access the current. And we could, for example, console.writeLine and print this item. And this is really then what happens in this loop, where while move next is returning the next item, we print the current to the console. So when we hit this method here, nothing in here has been executed. Only when we start for eaching, only when we hit move next, now we enter the method. So that's a deferred execution. We don't execute the method when we call the method, but when we start iterating through the enumerable that is created. This is why it's called an enumerator method, because it returns a deferred executed enumerable. And only when we start moving next, we then really call into this code, and this is printed, and then the first item will be returned. So, and basically this is now what the first item that is now returned here goes into this item. So we call now WriteLine. Afterwards, we call move next again. Now the next iteration will be printed until basically this loop has exhausted. And when this for loop is exhausted, at the end, we will say console.writeLine end, and the move next will return false. So we no longer then print any new items here. And this is how now we basically come to this code. So we first have to start, then have our iterations, and then we end. And I could also do something like, hey, in this sequence, maybe I only want to, since this is with iNumber, we can do link. Maybe I only want to take the first 5 items. And for example, now we see, since we don't really exhaust this loop, this end is no longer printed. Because we only take 5 items. This is now less than what this enumerable actually holds. So we stop before. So this end in the state machine, this end case, or the other 5 items that are still kind of in there, are never fetched out of this enumerable. They are never move nexted to, because now this new enumerable wraps this old enumerable, but stops executing after 5 elements.
That's awesome.
So we never really get to that. But with this with this deferred evaluation, what if we want to indicate that, hey, this start and this count, maybe we don't want to have any negative numbers. So I want to do some argument validation here. So now the argument out of range exception, throw if negative. Well, maybe negative is okay. If I start at -1, maybe that would be okay. But the count shouldn't be negative. Because if I would enter like -2 as a count, nothing would be executed for this loop because I only count up. So what the validation could say is that the count needs at least, maybe 0, but at least should be 1. Or maybe the count should not be negative. So what we could actually, I think this should be a less than, because I just discovered a bug. If we have a count of 0, we actually printed something. With a count of 0, we don't print anything. With a count of 1, we print 1. Now it's correct. So the count should not be negative. Let's assert it. Argument out of range exception, throw if negative, count. So maybe then in the comment, or in the documentation of this method, I can document that we throw if count is less than 0 or something. So that the caller should know, okay, invoking this with 0 is fine. Invoking this with -0, with less than 0, with -1 is not fine. And we get the argument out of range exception. But what if we never for each through this? Or what if we enumerate through this, but rather late? Maybe we store this sequence and then do a lot of linking with it. Maybe we build up a complex query. We take, we skip. I'm just chaining some methods. This may not really
Yep.
make sense. I'm just doing some stuff. Then we what's a conversion? A select. Wow, I'm not
Oh my goodness.
the fastest today. Well, item goes to, let's divide the item. This is a string, so maybe we say just add something to this item, and so on. And we may do a lot of linking there, and maybe even more. But we still just fail when we iterate. We still fail rather late. If I would have a console.write line, just before execution, we still hit that line. We don't fail up here. We only fail due to this deferred execution. We only fail when the first time move next is called or get enumerator is called. So what we want to have instead is to throw argument exceptions as early as possible to indicate this is a usage, this is an API usage error. Don't pass negative numbers in here. And to surface them early so that we don't even get this just before execution line, there is a trick of turning, because this method now is an iterator method because it has the yield return in it. So this method that does the validation should not be an iterator method. So what we could now do is maybe make a second method that we can call my method core, maybe, where we pass in the start and pass in the count. We could make this, for example, if this was in a class or in the type, we could make this a private method so that this core method is not visible from outside. We could also make this a local function. So now in here, I just basically create now a local function, paste in the code from before. Maybe we use the same signature and just call this method my method core. And here we need to return. And what we achieved now is that this iterator method no longer, because this is basically the iterator method, it no longer has a yield in it. So this is no longer lazily, this no longer has deferred execution, but immediate execution. And only when whatever is returned here, this method has the yield return and has the deferred execution. So we now no longer hit this just before execution code. We throw immediately here, and we don't do anything in between. And but the alternative would be we could also put this in a separate method. Then it may become a little bit more apparent, where we see that this method doesn't have a yield, but this one does. And we just return the iterator method from the non-iterator method. And this method is executed immediately. So we immediately surface the exception.
Nice.
And that's also very similar with async methods. Let's say we have an async task. I now do a my method async.
Yep.
Let's simulate. Let's say we have like the same thing here, but let's simulate we do a task.delay. Let's pass in an integer delay. And maybe I want to validate, that we cannot pass in a negative delay.
Yeah.
Or maybe, is there a throw if not positive? So it must be really a positive number. So if negative, no, maybe we want to allow 0. Okay. I'm overthinking this. Throw if negative. And again, we basically have the same problem. Problem is a bit of an overstatement, but the same behavior. If I am awaiting this method immediately, let's say I'm passing here -1. My method async. Well, we get the argument exception, all is good. But what if we were to store this task in a variable and then await it later? And maybe again, we do a lot of work in between. There is some work in between, and then very late we do this await. And again, the argument out of range exception, so this API usage, misusage, is thrown very, very late, because this is an async method, and the async method, if there is an exception, that is really stored on the task. And because of the await, this is now asynchronously executed, and only when we await it, the exception surfaces. And we can apply a very similar trick. If we have argument validation, we make now this async method non-async. Now we can't use await anymore. So we create now a method that we call my method async core. This core, this is just some naming convention. You could also do something else. We pass in the delay. I think in some cases there is also the usage of impl for implementation. Nice. I think the latest approach is to use the core method. Then we return the task, and then, for example, as a local function, we now do our await in there, have more or less the same signature as a local function, and say core here. Now we make this one async, and we have the same behavior, that we validate this argument exception immediately. We don't do any other work and surface this API misusage immediately. Well, and when we fix it, then all is good.
Nice.
And this is the pattern. Either you do it with local functions or with private methods to let argument exceptions surface immediately rather than deferred in an iterative method or when awaited in an async method.
Okay, gotcha. And you've mentioned a couple of times, so like there's delayed execution, but you've also mentioned lazy execution. Is that, is that an actual thing?
Yes. Today I'm using the terms a little bit wrong. What we started in the beginning is async methods are very similar to enumerables or iterator methods. Now this is here an async method. Yeah. What we see, this async method also has a move next. But this is just some private implementation detail. This is how the async state machine is implemented. And we see this, there's also a bit of a state machine. If I were to, let's say I do a delay 1 and a delay 2, and in between I have a console.writeLine hello. We see again, there is a bit of a state machine. This num here, that's the state. And the first time we hit it, we do this task delay of 1. Then we check, hey, is this completed? So because there is a task, and with this async state machine, we always check, is this task completed? If it is completed already, we continue synchronously. If not, put the rest of the continuation somewhere on the task scheduler and execute it later on. And then when this task scheduler returns, then, well, we get in here, we print the hello, and then we do the task delay 2. And then again, has this completed? If it has completed synchronously, well, this method completes. If it hasn't, then the continuation, which in this case is nothing, will then be put later on. All right. And now I forgot where I'm trying to get it. Oh yeah, deferred execution. So the thing is, async methods from an implementation detail perspective, async methods and iterator methods are quite similar. Now, if we go back to an iterator method, let's do an enumerable of int this time. No arguments, we just yield return 1, 2, and 3. And let's also do a console.writeLine 1, 2, and 3 in there. And let us, again, so we have here our sequence, my method. Oh, this is no longer async. And yeah, at some point we may iterate through it, or we could also, let's then iterate through it. Var item, this is an integer in sequence, and we do a console.writeLine of this item here. Maybe we put something I do for each here, for each column item, so that we know the difference between these ones. And when we run this, well, it doesn't, it is executed. If I remove this for each, it's not executed.
Huh.
So this is the part, this is the deferred execution. This method is only executed when we iterate through the items. Here we are for each doing it manually via get enumerator and then the move next current. Or when we somehow manifest this this collection. What we could also do is, because this is an IEnumerable, and this enumerable, this has deferred execution only when we manifest it via, for example, iterating it. What we could also do, maybe you've seen this, we can also convert something to an array. Now, an array is not deferred. An array has the values really inside. So if we convert this into an int array, we also see we get this method, or this really is executed. We get the console write 1, 2, and 3. So this is now, I think this is now called eager evaluation. No, wait a minute. Am I mixing concepts up again? I think I am. Yes. I need to wrap my head around. So again, we have deferred execution. So when we for each over it, or when we to array it, which is really manifesting it into an array, now we execute this method. Then there is also, and now I'm getting with the other part, there is lazy evaluation and eager evaluation. I hope I'm getting this now correctly. These have now to do with link.
Haha.
So let's say we do, let me comment this out. Let's say we save our item in sequence, white line, and let's print the item. Well, we get this multiple times because let's call this item column. And we see how this really is executed. We first call the console write line here. Then this item is yielded. We go, this item is now yielded here, so we print there. Then we get the next item, so we print here, and the next item is yielded, so we print it here. Then the next, move next, we go here. This item is yielded. Move next, now returns false, it's empty, and we finish the application. And this is also lazily evaluated, because what we saw earlier, if I were to take only, let's say, 2 items, we see that the last one, the last console write line, is never executed. So this is now lazily evaluated, because more or less only on request. Once we need that item, once the next item is requested, the next block of code until the next yield return is executed. Eager evaluation, on the other hand, now does it all up front. For example, when we sort, let's say we don't return them in a sort order. Let's do 5, 2, and -5. If I were to sort them, is it sort or is it order? It's order. If I were to order them, and even though I only take 1 item, or let's say take 0, yes. Okay, take 0 as an optimization, nothing is happening, okay. But when I take at least 1 item, we see that all of the console write lines are printed, because although we only output a single item, well, the first item really, because we say take 1, we could also say maybe like first, give me the first item. Well, no, of course, this doesn't work, because first returns an integer, not an IEnumerable, my bad. But with take, we now get a new enumerable that we can for each. And this order now, this has eager evaluation, because in order to sort this entire sequence, we need to go through all of them, because I don't know, maybe the last one is the one that I really want to sort first.
And in our case, it is.
I haven't went through this in quite a while. And this is basically a difference between we have deferred execution and immediate execution. Deferred execution is when you have, for example, an iterator method that does yield returning.
Yeah.
Immediate execution is I have a regular method that doesn't yield. It just runs the method, all is good. If we were to split this, we could say here just return m. And now here in here you have a static IEnumerable of int m, which now does this code as a local function. What am I doing wrong? Not all code paths return a value.
What?
Interesting. Do I need to restart? No, I'm doing something wrong here. No, okay. No, it worked. Just restarted.
Wow,
we see that
how that was good thinking. Imagine we looked at it for like an hour. Has this happened to you before?
sometimes.
Not on stream, really?
Sometimes,
It
yeah.
hasn't happened on
When you
stream yet.
use it for a while, then it gets confused a little.
Okay.
And when we see that basically this method here is, oh, maybe I make it a little bit more apparent. The method, my method, this is just a method. This is immediately executed.
Yeah.
And this one, since it has yield in it, has deferred execution because it's only really executed when requested. And then when we do execution or evaluation, then we have lazy and eager evaluation, where if I only do like a take, we see this is lazily evaluated. Only when we request an item, the next step is happening block by block. And with eager evaluation, like an order, because for order, I need everything up front. Well, I can't really just return the first item because the last item, maybe I need to evaluate everything eagerly in order then to produce the full set, even though I may only take 1 or 2 items and not the full set.
Okay, makes sense. I got a little bit confused
Yeah,
because you said
too,
my
along the way.
method is executed immediately.
Yes.
And my method goes to M, but M is not. It's deferred execution. So
Yes.
So what does it? Yes.
See that
do another console.
Let's call this immediately.
Yeah.
And let's do here deferred.
Yeah.
When I get rid of the for each, we see we go into my method. My method doesn't have any yields, so this is executed immediately, and then the result of m is returned. M, however, now returns an IEnumerable, and this IEnumerable that is returned here now has deferred execution.
But what does it return?
An IEnumerable as an implementation detail. When we scroll down to the method, as an implementation detail, now we say this is our my method, and here it returns something compiler generated. This is the state machine that is generated. And the state machine implements IEnumerable. So what we see that gets returned is an IEnumerable. What's actually returned is a type that implements IEnumerable and implements this current move next state machine. But now we see already our deferred console write line is already in this move next. And move next is only executed when we really start to call this move next first. For example, when we start for eaching through an item, because now we for each, where is that code for there? Because now we here's our enumerable that we build up, we order and we take, and then we get the enumerator, and then we call move next. And now only when we call move next, now this code has deferred execution. And for the deferred execution, now depending on how we chain the link, parts of it may be lazily evaluated, parts of it eagerly, depending on what sorts of link methodology we're using, because some can just iterate one by one, but some, like the order, must take everything up front.
Nice. That's awesome. Well done. Nice trivia.
Oh, this is escalated.
It always does, though. It
Yes,
always
it
does. I
always
think
does.
I think that's why we like paused on the trivia for like a while, because we're like, we have to get through some content as well. But now we have it back, and I'm really glad that it's back. Actually, we just have to do more episodes, and then we can get through the same coding as well. Speaking of coding,
Ooh,
should we switch to EditorConfig?
EditorConfig.
Do you?
Yes, all the time is also hi. Hello.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for spending the evening with us. Good examples.
Benchmarks. Ooh, okay, cool.
Ooh, good. That's a good, how do you say, like a good good word.
Trigger?
No, it's like for me with the words. How do you say? Stichwort. Ein gutes Stichwort.
Catchline. Today we are not good with words.
No. Good point. It's a good point. It's benchmarks. We wanted to do like a benchmarking episode for like a long time. I think it was we were talking about it in like February or like March or something, like really early in the year. And we haven't done it yet. But I think because you're quite an expert on benchmarking, aren't you? And I don't think I've ever really done it. I've like tried it out like a little bit because I think potentially you showed me once. But yeah. It would be really interesting for me.
Expert, I think, is an overstatement. Aficionado, that's more like it, yeah.
All right. Well, that's good enough for me.
But yeah, because if you sometimes when you have an enumerable and maybe the code that you think is executed isn't executed, and then if in the benchmark you don't evaluate the entire enumerable, you may be lying to yourself because it's super fast, but it hasn't been executed. I mean, the code that you don't execute is very fast, super fast, infinite fast.
Super fast, yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah.
Yes. So because not calling it in the benchmark, then yeah, this is sometimes a bit of a source of lies, yeah. And
fair enough.
Just before we head into EditorConfig.
Stuart, welcome.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for joining.
Cool. Okay, I guess now going to the core of our Q. Stichwort is Q.
Is it?
Well, at least this is what dictionary said. Q.
No.
Keyword,
is it really?
Headword, catchword, prompt,
prompt.
Why don't Q? Maybe that's something like that. Okay, well, German.
I don't think that's the truth.
So I think now to go to the meat of our topic, we also have deferred execution.
Yeah.
So last time we have actually, was it last time or was it two episodes ago? We built a C# project builder that we started to use last episode. And what we had is here a little to do. That we choose this indentation characters, how we felt like it, because it was 2 weeks ago, and we said, okay, that's good enough. But yeah, this is different code bases look differently, and there is a that's industry standard for defining your indentation level and other common styles in the EditorConfig. What this format does is you have a few options. For example, you can set the indent style to either tab or spaces, which is usually a very kind of a dividing question.
Oh, is it?
Very yes, very opinionated. What's better, tabs versus spaces? There is a big discussion. Yes.
And it's just style, isn't it? There's not really.
Technically, yes.
Oh my god. Okay. I can see you also have a very hard preference.
I do, yes. But but you're right. After compilation, it's gone. It's trivia. It's space, or is it space trivia in Roslyn? Indentation trivia. It's trivia. It doesn't matter for the compilation. Well, we need some spaces in between keywords to separate them, but the indentation before does not matter at all. No. Well, we could write our C# program in just a singular line if we wanted to. So technically it doesn't matter, but and if we use spaces, we can also define how many spaces, which is then another question of 2 spaces, 4 spaces. So for us now to answering this question in our little tool globally is impossible. So we could now read this from this editor config. There is also, maybe you want to define your end of line characters. Maybe the character set that you want to use. I think what's very common is UTF-8 versus UTF-8 with bomb. What you can also declare is to trim trailing white spaces. This is a bit what I'm guilty of. If I see trailing white spaces, they usually trigger me. So I love this setting.
Yeah.
And also something like insert new line, so that at the end of the file, you either have a new empty line or you don't. Okay. And this is like the base set of editor config. And this is implemented by a vast tool set of the ecosystem. Most tools like Visual Studio, Rider, I think also the Visual Studio Code plugin for C#, I think. Not sure actually, but I think they all support that. For some tools, you may need a plugin. Okay, actually, Visual Studio Code doesn't support it out of the box, but with the right plugin, it's also supporting them. But a lot of tools already support them out of the box, so this is a very broad standard.
Can you just, sorry, I'm still not quite sure. So you can have like an editor config file, then you decide kind of what your, like, you want to have tabs or spaces or whatever, and then does that apply that to your file? Or is it just, again, like having warnings or like hints to sort of like tell you?
That depends on the tool. I think the tool then, either when you apply auto formatting in the tool or when you save, depending on the settings, then this is when it's applied.
Oh, that's so good.
Now creating just in dot.
Why? Yeah. Because I'm a trailing white space criminal, so I guess I should make use of that a little bit.
So just creating in the root of the post. I also realize, just hold on a second.
Okay, what's going on? Oh my goodness. And all by myself.
Oh, didn't turn on the light.
Oh.
We root equals to true. I'll come to that in just a second. And we could say for every file, we want to have the indent insert final new line to true. Now I'm actually, let's find out if Rider immediately recognizes that file. It always depends on the tool how this file is interpreted. But let's just go here to our program.cs. I removed that. There we go. I removed that line. We only have one line. Now I hit save on my keyboard. Show this, Control S. Actually, let's not even do Control S. I just show it all via the UI. So there is no cheating. I say save all.
Yeah.
And now second line is added.
That's so good.
And if I were to say false here.
Yeah.
Now does the opposite happen if I hit save all? Maybe I need to reload the file. Okay, it doesn't seem to do the opposite. But now if I save all, it's not added.
So it doesn't remove. It doesn't remove. It wouldn't remove my trailing white spaces.
Apparently not.
Would it? Oh, well, then it's useless.
This is not the unsafe behavior. Let's see what happens if I do a format. There is a code, reformat code.
Yep.
That's doing it. So not unsafe, but you can still do I think the shortcut is Control-Alt-Enter on my keyboard. So it still does it, depending on.
Okay, fair enough.
But unlike adding it on safe, it's not removing it on safe. But when you say, please format, then it does.
Okay, fair enough.
And you could then do something like, hey, reformat and cleanup. You could do this for the entire project and then do this still in one go.
Nice. Awesome. Okay.
And yes, so this is basically the default, what is implemented by most of the tools that support it.
Yep.
Some of the tools even have more. Wider has some. I'm not sure if I will find now documentation for Wider. EditorConfig. Visual Studio has a bunch. Well, also the base.
Yep.
But also, if I can find the .NET, a lot of the .NET coding conventions are also encoded in this format. If I would find them now, yes. For example, do you prefer var or not? And you use it via this. So this is what I know that Visual Studio is interpreting. I think Rider also of these rules support some, maybe even most.
Yeah.
I haven't tried all of them into too much detail, but at least the most prevalent ones are supported as well. Now it depends on the tools because they are not really the standard, but in EditorConfig you could encode more styling, but this now depending on the ecosystem, depending on the tool that is using it. But yeah, we don't. Excuse me.
Sorry, there was a remove unnecessary import, but it doesn't have an option. So
remove unnecessary import.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But
okay,
it
then it's just a rule, but something that you can't change with the EditorConfig for Visual Studio. You can still kind of turn this rule off, but this is also, I think also the .NET tool supports some of them. Like you could also use it for diagnostics. You can also use the EditorConfig to disable or change the severity of diagnostics.
Okay.
But this is I think now a .NET tooling thing, so that's not Wider, but .NET. If we add this and set the severity to error, and let's say we are using system here, and this is totally redundant. And if I were now to open in terminal, .NET build. It doesn't. Oops. I was not kind of hoping for an error, but maybe I need to set something else up because I think per default, because this is a style rule, this really is a style rule. And I think per default style rules are not causing errors. There is a setting you can change, but other diagnostics, what's one of the diagnostics? I think we actually suppress one of them. Let's say, can we find that now? The async await. Are we? Oh, we haven't even enabled this analyzer. What we could do, I think, is C# async. Is that CS2007? I'm not sure if I remember. CA.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, that's embarrassing. I know this code almost. So what you could do is, I think, set this severity to error.
Yep.
And now we get an error here.
What is?
Because what CA 2007 is saying is, do not await tasks directly.
It's what you should do. 2007, please.
Oh yes. 2007. This is how we'll definitely remember it now. 2007 is to not await tasks directly, like here, await task, but do a configure await instead. Now, this would go into async await and how this works. Maybe we do an episode. This can be a separate episode. In short, what this does is telling where should the continuation, if there is a continuation, what we saw earlier, if the task is completed, if it has completed, continues synchronously. If the task is not completed, then put the remainder of the method. Well, in this case, there is none, but still put the remainder of the method as a continuation. Schedule it for later. Now it depends on where the task scheduler is scheduling that. Is it scheduling on any thread from the thread pool or on a very particular thread? So depending now on the context, there is some kind of rules. You need this in UI applications because in a UI application, only the main thread can mutate UI. And if so that's per default, you go back to the calling thread. Well, again, depending on what application model and also on. There is an entire article and talks about configure await. But yes, for library code, usually for library code, you want to do configure await false because you don't know where this library code is running on. Is it running on a .NET Core application, on a command line application, on a WPF application, on a web application? And if it's a web application, you don't know if it's the regular ASP.NET or the ASP.NET Core, because there have been differences in how continuations are scheduled. So you don't know where it's executed. So you should, for library code, usually you do configure await false.
Yep.
In our case, well, we know that our code is running in a console application. We don't need to think about this. There is no, in a .NET Core console application, there is no synchronization context. So we don't need to think about configure await false. Therefore, we can just ignore this this rule. But if we had code, if we would ship some of these parts, maybe our libraries, if we would ship them actually as NuGet packages, we should set the severity of this diagnostic. Maybe warning is enough. It changes to warning. Now this turns into a warning or error. So depending on the ecosystem, now this is what .NET does. Oh yeah, I need to save. So this is now a .NET feature, so that via the EditorConfig you can also steer your analyzer severities or disable them all together. But yes, so this is, we also see .NET underscores. It is something very .NET specific. Something like insert final new line. This really should work on basically every file. So basically, I would want to design this like this. So for C# files, only for C# files, I would like to apply this rule, because for any other file, this doesn't really make sense. And maybe I want to have insert final new line here, but I could also then say yes, but not for C# files. For C# files, I don't want it. So you could build up something like this. Well, I'm having this twice now, so I should really merge it. So you could have something like this, that for every file, we don't want to insert a new line, but for C# files, yes, we do.
So the more specific one wins, kind of.
The most, yes.
Okay. And so what's this root is true? You said you talk about this later.
Yes, exactly now. So
this is on cue, as we've learned.
Yes. So I'm not just putting a bunch of EditorConfig files. I'm copying one in here and copying one in here. Now for this programs, yes, this EditorConfig does apply.
Can you scroll in a little bit?
Yes.
Yes.
So for this programs, yes, this EditorConfig that I just copied here may apply if there is a rule that is under the .cs where this file is applying, or likewise the CS approach. Also, both of these files may apply rules of this EditorConfig. If there are any in there. Maybe there aren't. Maybe there is no CS approach or no CS. Maybe it's empty. Or maybe this EditorConfig, maybe we do in this EditorConfig, we only have, let's say we only have this severity thing, but no styling code. Because maybe only in this project we want to have this this severity, but not in other projects. And if we do not have root is true, now, similar to what we learned with Martin, is the directory.build.props files. They go recursively up. So this EditorConfig now does not have a root is true. Therefore, well, in the context of these two files, we now go to the parent directory and see if there is an EditorConfig. If there, I will delete this now. There is no EditorConfig. So we go on searching for the next EditorConfig until we hit the root, and then we can no longer traverse back to the root. But now we have this EditorConfig here, and this EditorConfig here now has, I will move that if that works. Do I need to reload? Something was, I wasn't able to edit it. Now I can.
Okay.
Now this is more or less like the root EditorConfig, where we have rules that apply to every of our projects. But here we now say root is true, so we stop searching. So even if there was in any directory above another editor config, this would be ignored because we hit the root there. And this rule now basically applies for each and every file. So in the context of this file, we see, do we have an editor config in here? Well, I don't see it in there, but if we go to the directory, we see, yes, alongside this file is an editor config. Therefore, let's load the rules. And this rule only says severity. It's not root. Therefore, we go on searching. There's another one. This now is root, so we stop searching. And basically what we end up is now, well, both of those for this one document.
Yeah.
What we effectively end up with is now all of the rules. Oops, that's the wrong one.
Wrong.
Is all of the rules combined into one.
So this root just tells you I am the last editor config that you should ever consider.
Yes.
But still, like if, for example, the root one in this example would have also this 2007 on like a different severity, would still the lower one win?
Let's find out.
Yeah.
Let's put this
I
one
hope I phrased that question right.
Yes. So I think what's they called? The precedence.
Yes.
Which one wins?
Yes.
So this is
good.
Oops.
Point.
Let's get rid of what we had earlier. And this one now does the same thing here. And let's also add this program CS. Let's put that here. So this is the one that is closest to the file. We say error here. And if I were to say, let's say none here, we see that this has no effect because it gets overwritten by this one. And if I change this to warning.
Wait, okay.
Now.
No, it's not true.
This one should be win. Oh, wait a minute. My bad.
No.
That's the other way around, isn't it? I was confusing them. Sorry. So this is the tool.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
Is it? Oh my goodness.
No, we should have it. Because, well, here's our root. I was just pointing them the wrong way around. Here's our root. Yeah. And this is just in source editor config. And this is the one in source tools, flashover tool, editor config. So this is the one close to the file.
Yeah.
Now this one close to the file says none. This is warning. Since this one is closer to the file, it's overwritten.
Nice.
And well, if I say error here and save it, this will turn into an error.
Got it.
Because this is closer. But what if we don't have this entry at all? I remove this entry here. Now this will turn into a warning because this is what we have applied there. And if I bring it back with an error, now there is one closer, so the closest one. From a file hierarchy, the closest one to each file wins.
Okay.
Now this really depends on your...
Yeah, I guess that's something to consider for our tool, right? Because we want to apply the right spacing or the right whatever.
So that's actually a good point. So what do we need to consider? We need to well, so for each file.
Yeah.
Or in our case, well, what's in our case? We have our C# project builder. Well, in our case, it's this C# project that we are building. But in generally, if we build like some general editor config resolver, for each file, we need to search n.editor config in the current.
But don't our projects also have like different files? Sorry, I didn't get your last point.
Yes.
It is for each file.
It's for each file. Let's say, for example, here we have our core code base.
Yep.
Now, for example, this CS project is here, and it starts looking in this directory. And then, if there is nothing found, goes up. If we were to jump into, let's say, our interceptors code now, it starts looking here. Is one found? No. So it goes up. So it depends on the
it's
start
not...
of the search is where the file that we're currently editing is.
Got it.
So we could build up, we could technically have in each folder our own editor config. Well, then we have a lot of editor configs, but we technically could per directory sort them or group them. So we need to search for an editor config in the in let's say this files directory. Then in there we need to search for find sections that apply to the current file. Where sections could be like just a star, that means it applies to every file. Star.cs applies to every file that, well, any .cs file. We could also have a pattern like file.cs. Now this only applies to file.cs. There is also, now I need to go cheating into the definition. I think we can also say those are like the rules, there is wildcard patterns that apply. We can also match like any single character, any name, or we do not match these. We can also have groups. So what we could have is, something like this. Where we say, okay, this applies to .cs files, .vb files, and .fs files. So for C#, Visual Basic, and F# files. And so we need to find sections that apply. And then now what I don't know is what if we have, I think it's the last one, even within a file, I think it's the last one wins. So let's say we now take this editor config, and what if we do, what if we have let's do a star. The star kind of is more specific. No, actually the .cs is more specific, my bad. But it comes afterwards. So which one wins? If I do warning or error? And this is an error.
Have you saved?
I did, yes.
All right.
So it's let's put them like so. And we have an error. So it's the last one that wins. And if I move this around, now this turns into a warning. So it's the one at the bottom of the file. So it's a top to bottom parsing. Sections that apply to the current file.
We can't do lazy evaluation, right? Because we need to know the last thing.
Yes, exactly. We can't stop at the first one. We need to pass the entire file. We need to do eager. Very good.
Yes. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Find the last occurrence of the key that we find. In our case, it's indentation. What's that we are looking for? It's indent style and indent size.
Okay.
If not found, and if not root, because what we also say, if there were more documents, but the parent, the document, the editor config that is farther away has less precedence over the one that is closest. So if we find one in there already, we're done. But if we can't find it, then we need to go recursively up the directories, find parent directories, parent directories.
Oh, yes.
.editorconfig.
I was so confident. Oh my goodness.
until we either find an entry. Or we hit the root.
Is at least this root is true? Is that at the top of the file always, or can it also be anywhere? And does it affect anything if it's like in the middle?
I do not know.
It probably doesn't affect it because it doesn't do anything except for telling you stop searching. But it could be anywhere, probably. Okay.
I think this usually is on the top of the file.
Yeah.
I have the feeling. How can you find that out quickly?
I mean,
now I say root is
think,
true
yeah.
just in here. So do we need, I actually don't know. In our parent editor config, we have the rule of insert final new line. So if I get rid of this, it's actually now a final new line inserted. Yes, it is. So if I just say false everywhere.
Yep.
And let's say here, insert final new line to true. So we have now the root file says, wait a minute, no, this is not what I'm trying to achieve here, isn't it? What I'm trying to achieve, is this final new line now hit or not? I set it to false here. This now currently it doesn't insert a new line. I hit save. Let's do save. No new line is inserted.
Yep.
Would have not changed this to a true. Although we have root true here, and now I hit save, it doesn't edit.
But do you have to do the not save, but the apply or
format?
Not apply? Yes, format.
Oh yes, it does. Oh yes, it does.
Okay, good.
Now changing this back to false. Does not do it. Yeah, I press the keys. They don't do it. But if we do to true, then they do it. So no, this is not. This is ignored. So we can. I guess that's the style. Before any section starts, I think this should be on the top.
Got it.
Special property that should be specified at the top of the
file.
Top of the
file. There you
outside
go.
of any section. Set to true stops file searching on current file.
Got it.
So, but it could be something. It's not necessarily at the top of the file, so it could be like this would be valid, but it's at the beginning before the first section.
Yeah, got it. All right, can you bring back the Good thing you still have that stored. All right, if we don't find any entry, we or we hit the root. If we don't find any entry and we hit the root, we just default, right?
Then we do whatever we want, yeah.
Then we do whatever we want, and then we format your project for you.
Yes.
In our preferred style. Great.
Oops.
Unlimited power. All right, cool. Well, that sounds like a lot of work.
It does indeed. And it also gets a little bit more complicated.
Oh my goodness.
You can also have a global config.
No.
I think this is a .NET. I think this is a .NET specific thing.
Okay.
And I think this is also. I'm not sure if this only applies to analyzers. So the diagnostics that we had earlier, this CA2007. I think like only for these diagnostic rules, this global config applies. But then it really, yes, as Eric says, it really becomes difficult, complicated because, well, you can call your global config. You can call it. Where is the documentation? You can call it .global config, or you can call it any name and then say global analyzer config file and basically give it any name. I'm not sure if this may also include EditorConfig, like this spacing that we are looking for. But it is, just like you said, it is complicated already.
Yeah.
Maybe isn't there something it even gets more duplicated. Excuse me?
Is there something in Roslyn we can use as, I don't know, somebody already figured this out for us?
Yeah, this sounds painful. I was enthusiastic to build this, not anymore.
Yeah, me too. I was like, oh, great. How hard could it be?
Well, let's see. I have this odd deja vu. I have this very odd deja vu. It's almost as if we have preferred for that.
No.
We have, I think we have an open issue for generated code.
Okay. Aha.
Because EditorConfig can also mean generated code. This is interesting in the nullable reference documentation. So I guess we're still in nullable references land.
Yes.
This never lets us go. Yeah, there it is. We looked at this like quite some time ago when we wanted to find out what generated code is. And we implemented, well, the auto-generated comment on top of the C# file.
Yeah.
We implemented the file name that starts with temporary generated file and also the C# file that ends in any of these. But there is also, if there is an editor config that specifies generated code.
Oh, goodness.
And I think
we
had, we took a look at this. When we implemented actually because in our generated, let's find for, what's that, temporary generated file, because we did implement our Boston utilities to check if code is generated, both on a compilation level, on a document level, but also for each compilation unit. Well, for the compilation unit, this is the code that checks, does it have an auto-generated commit? So we check here. We also check on the document level the file names. And we also check on a compilation level whether there is a compiler-generated attribute on the assembly. So you could also have an entire assembly generated technically. Well, this is very unlikely that our tool hits this path in production, but well, it's still possible. What we do not cover is this editor config things.
Yep.
And when we did take a look at how Roslyn implemented this, because in our, was this our last year, our second or something episode where we had David guide us into Roslyn.
Yeah, that was a really good episode. If you want to have a look at this episode, head to our YouTube channel.
Very good.
I need like a commercial jingle somehow.
I should taste it.
Yeah, you can watch all our previous episodes. And the ones where we have guests, so they're all stunning, like each and every one of them.
Well, if we go back to, do we have a playlist? I believe we do. If we go back to the, can we view that here?
To the beginning.
We can play all.
Oh no, oh no.
I guess it's somewhere. The Roslyn Workspaces API, yes.
Yes.
We had.
Oh goodness.
We had David helping us out, and
Yay.
I believe it's been a while. And I believe we also explored a bit the Roslyn code base, because he mentioned that we're now going to context. Sites of .NET that currently still exists. This may be stopped in the future, but what will always exist is, well, source.net, so the source browser of the .NET runtime, but also the source browser for Roslyn. And in here, we can find some generated code things. Generated code flags, Walker, generated code utilities. That looks good.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how Roslyn detects what generated code is. And yeah, those are internal, so unfortunately we can't use them.
Oh.
But generated code. And they do that via analyzer config options. So maybe the MS Build workspace is already taking care for us of all of that complexity of.
That would be nice.
Quite nice, because I think we wouldn't hit our episode time goal.
No.
Well, I guess we still won't meet it even if it was, but this is, this
True.
is tough to implement.
True.
I guess, well, if we were to implement this could really be its own library. Maybe there is even a library out there. Maybe this is what we should have started with. NuGet, .NET, EditorConfig parser or something like this. There's EditorConfig core. And so this is a NuGet package also available as a tool. And they have an EditorConfig parser where we then pass for a file name and then can get the properties.
That sounds nice.
I guess. So if the Roslyn path doesn't work for us, we have with this one a fallback.
Okay.
I wanna take a very brief peek at the source code. Yes, parser, EditorConfig parser. Now this has a parse method where we pass in a file name, and it gets the path, and then they solved it with link. So they browse all the sections, then check if this section is a match. So if it matches this path of this file that we are selecting, and then we get some file configuration results. And I can imagine they also do get configuration files till root. So they have solved exactly that problem. So okay, there is double no need for us to re-implement this. I guess eventually there is some get all parent directories and so on and so forth. So they solved those for us already, and they're also using iterator methods.
Interesting. All right, but you want to probably go the Roslyn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's try Roslyn first, and if it doesn't work out, then we can we can use the EditorConfig parser.
Yep.
Cool. I guess what we need first is a bit of a test. Where do we start with? Do we have a... Should we start with the generated code now? Or do we do... No, let's start with what we actually wanted to do, is get these intentions. Indentations, my bad. So in our... We implement this in our nullable migrator in the CLI. We have... we have here some code that then spits out a CS purge.
Okay.
Now let's append. We have append document and append file. I think append document, I think this is forcing it to be a C# document, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
If we just do append file, I think this is not. This could be anything.
Yeah, perfect. Smart.
So we can now just add our own .editor.config. And let's see root is true. Let's do just an all section for simplicity. Let's give it something to do. .cs. Am I using that right? I'm not sure. Way too many tabs. Yes. And we could also, you know what? Let's do a little bit of a more tricky example. Let's see if this really, really works. Let's do C# and Visual Basic.
Okay.
And for that, we say indent style should be space.
Yep.
And the indent size should be, let's do something crazy, 5. So that something that we notice immediately. And do you now prefer new lines, insert final new line, or not?
Oh my goodness.
Well, in our generated documents that we use for integration testing.
I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. What do you do? Why is it there? No, we don't need it. Okay.
And I guess then the test, well, actually, I'm not sure. Does the test even pass currently? Just to make sure.
Yeah, that's a good question. That would be good.
It does.
Debugging for like 4 hours. If you're like, oh, wait.
And now when we add this,
Yep, it should be red.
well, it should still pass because we don't really. Oh, it does fail
No.
because we don't assert that we haven't deleted this editor config file. Because I added it to the expectation. We really need to add it to add document. So we need to add it to.
But now we have the file ending problem again, right?
Oh, yeah, because here we have like a workspace creator. This is more of a expectation creator. Those are two different types that we built. And when we add a document, then we do physical document.create and we do the file name. Yes, we do. Which we shouldn't. So good point. I guess we also need an add file. Well,
yeah.
How do we call it below? Add file. Since this really is a workspace, I think from a Waslin perspective, this would be called an additional file.
Okay.
So this is not
additional file.
This is not additional files are not. Now I get it. Yes, add additional.
Can you imagine, like, if you're like not a very good English speaker, and then you just have like a name that's just ADD, and it's just like, that's not. I'm giving up already.
And then you go to our code base. So here we do the add documents.
Yep.
This should also create a physical project builder. Because I'm fairly certain. Well, there is additional text and additional files, and those additional files, they're not C# or not compiler relevant. Then we have the text and the name, and we should. Okay, because here with this physical create, we say, we have here this language extensions thing, which we shouldn't do. How do we quickly well, I guess we need another overload where we do not pass a language.
Yep.
And then do not have the extension, and we just say, well, this is adding extension. We don't do any of the extension adding. We just say name, and that's it. So here we don't do any folders. We don't just no language. We just pass in the name, and all is good.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you much, Stuart, for dropping by.
Have a great evening. See you next time.
And let's give that a test if it really creates what we expect it to create. So we shall jump to our Scratch directory. Oops. Artifacts, there it is. Let's delete that. Let's run the test. Let's see what we actually get created. Here's our test, and we have document and our editor config that includes the code. Very cool.
That's awesome.
And then now, well, it kind of should fail because the spacing here is not what we expect it to be. So in our C# project builder, we now may want to additionally also set, when we create it from a file path, we may also want to set the indentation. Now we definitely want to store that indentation. Let's create a. Oh, that's static, therefore it doesn't work. We need to have another overload for our C# project builder. That also takes a string indent. where we now say, I guess from here we should be able to pass to a create a property or a read-only field indent. Yes.
Perfect.
Here's our indent job. Per default, I think we currently have just a singular space. So now let's replace this one here. Here's the to-do with our indent here. But now, how do we create that? Okay, we now here need to create our string indent. So how do we do that? We need the, let's go cheating. We need the analyzer config options.
Yep.
Okay, so we have our project. Let's see if we can ask our project. Project.options. We have parse options, compilation options, and analyzer options.
Easy.
Analyzer option, but okay, those are different type. Those are analyzer options. But what we need are analyzer config options.
Config options.
And analyzer options now have, for example, they have the additional files.
There you go.
Because I think from a Western perspective, yes, because this EditorConfig, this is not a compiled file. This doesn't contain C# Visual Basic code. This is not compiled. There's nothing syntax tree. There is no compilation created out of that. So this is now in the analyzer options. They now have those additional files, which are not compilation relevant. So I guess actually now in one of these additional files, we should find our EditorConfig if we debug into that. And for that, again, I guess we can now create those analyzer config options provider that now in return has global options, and we can get options for either a syntax tree or additional text. Now, again, additional text is, I think, code that is in an additional file, or not code necessarily, but text that is an additional file. But since we only think about our C# files, I think this method is for us. So for the current tree that we're in, we ask, give us the options, the analyzer config options for this file, basically. Well, not really file, but for the syntax tree. Okay, provider. Get options. Now we need a syntax tree. Damn it. Damn it. Do we get the syntax tree out of a C? This is not a C# file. I was wrong. We're not doing this for C# files. We're doing this for CSproj files. Let's take a. Now I want to see. Maybe this works for the additional. I don't think, is the CS project an additional file? I kind of don't think so. Analyzer options. Well, maybe we can ask the global options. Not sure if they contain that. If we can say, how do they do this? They say try get value. Oh, not generated code. What do we need? We need indent style. Try get value indent style.
Yep.
Maybe let's store them to make the line a little shorter. Let's say our global. And we ask the global and we say out var value. But also want to ask if this provider, what the additional files are. If the CS, because I have the feeling if the CS project is not, maybe this won't work for the CS project. Maybe this does work for to detect whether this is a global, this is a generated code. But to get the indent style for a non-C# file may not work because I don't think that these additional, we actually have 0 additional files.
Oops. What?
So yeah, and this one is because this returns false, so we can't get in from the global options. So I'm not really certain that we can get, maybe for the CS project, we do need to use the EditorConfig parser, because we don't have a analyzer options dot provider dot get options. Let's store this into a var provider. We need to pass either syntax tree or additional text. But I don't really know if we can get additional text for a C# project. Because there is we took a look, there is the additional files or the additional text, or additional files, but unfortunately these are empty. So we don't have the C# project here available.
Yep.
So perhaps we need to use that library.
But
Excuse me?
I kind of got lost a little bit. Because what are we doing again?
We want to find...
We're looking for an EditorConfig file with either...
Yes.
Okay.
But the file that we are looking, this EditorConfig, so the file that this should apply for is
CSproj.
the CSproj. But we don't have the CSproj as an additional text available.
But do we need it? Because we will just see if it's like star CSproj, we know it applies to CSproj.
Yes, but we would need to do the parsing ourselves from this EditorConfig file. And finding this EditorConfig file and all of the logic that we didn't want to do.
Yes.
What I can so there is what I can imagine that for the globe, maybe you can do this later, or maybe, you know what? Since we are now here in that scope, maybe let's give that a try for
Famous last words. Yeah.
to detect whether something is generated code or not. So what we could also do is for the same test, we could add a new document where we, is this our document? Yes. So for basically to indicate this as generated code, so it should not be changed. So we're getting some text. And we say, let's put this into, I think we can also do folders, right? So we can put this in a folder and say this is I just call it gen.cs.
Yeah.
I think I'm using the right signature. So we have, we have the name and then folders, my bad. So the folder comes afterwards. So we now put this document into a folder. And let's give this a different type. We have generated, my generated record. This one should not be changed. Let's also add this to the expectation.
Yeah.
Does this have a similar syntax? Yes, let's see if that still passes. And
no, we broke it with EditorConfig already, didn't we?
No, I think we fixed that because we do add the EditorConfig as well to the expectation. But it now says to match projects and remove nullable, but does not. Oh, no, this breaks somewhere severely. Why is that? Let's briefly check the output. Artifacts, scratch. Here's now a folder, and in this folder we have a gen.cs, and this contains this. Kind of looks good, doesn't it?
Yep.
So why does this so dramatically fail? I don't know. Should let's check the error. Oops. And the error says unknown exception argument exception value cannot be null. Uh-huh. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Where do we have? Interesting. But where? Did I mess something up with the append or something? This happens somewhere in our C# project builder. Oh, because the indentation that we pass in is null. Okay.
Oh.
We should do a default. So if we, but we
Yeah.
did. Wait a second. Huh? No, I'm confused. Oh, so
No.
this is bad here. This is bad. I do this here for now. Okay, totally my bad. Yeah, we passed in null, which okay, we should. Yeah, we had a nullable warning, and the nullable warning said us what we do wrong. Yes. So this now may succeed, and then we could no. Actually, this should fail because of that.
Okay.
Yes, because we nullable on one document, but we actually did two documents. But we don't want two documents because this one really should be a generated file.
Got it. Yep.
So we now add an additional file where we say now the generated code thing. Top. No. Way too many tabs. Which one is it? This one. This one. Yes. Generated code is true. So we say star.cs, generated code is true. And we put this now in a .editorconfig, which is also in the folder. And for that, we now also need to support, just as we have here, params folder names. And we do this like so.
Oops.
Do we not?
Nope.
So I would do language, but we do have this like so here, don't we? And we just don't do the language, but it appears that we don't have an overload for that.
One more overload.
One more overload. Where we now have a yes. And we pass in no language. How do we do this up here? We just say physical document.create. We don't do that, but we do have the, that's quite a bit of logic for the language thing. Yeah, I'll just copy this for now. But we don't do the language, so we just use the name directly.
Nice.
Cool. Now going back to our test, we should now have, also we need to add this as an expectation too.
Yep. It's a penned file, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. You're right. Very good. And now when we run this, we should have a project that is set up like this. We go to our artifacts, scratch, debug, net8. There should be this ordered, right? We have the latest one at the bottom. And we have EditorConfig, we have a folder, EditorConfig, and gen. And this EditorConfig now is generated code. Cool.
Perfect.
Now the test fails because, yeah, we still do 2, but it should only be 1. So when we go to our nullability migrator,
yes,
where we now have a syntax, where we do have a syntax node, we could now in here, because we already saw in the project, we could now here in this filter, or maybe we have a Boolean there, or we just do it like in here, where we say if this is generated, then we continue the loop.
Oops.
Well, I guess we need the syntax. We need a syntax node. Actually, do we need a syntax node or syntax tree? Well, let's find out. Actually, I think we need a syntax tree, don't we?
I'm not sure.
Well, we could do anything. We could do either. So now we need to find out, we need to ask this. Would you like to give it a try?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Ask the project, the analyzer options of the project.
Okay, project dot. Oh, no, to complete. No, nothing. Oops, where am I? Am I here? No! You can't see what I've typed?
No, I don't.
Damn it. Sorry. Excuse me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Okay, I wrote project dot. That's weird.
Yeah, project dot. Okay, sorry that this doesn't work now. I will go for the analyzer options.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, never mind. Yeah, I think I'm out.
The options, and now these options, this one takes a syntax tree. So I don't think we can pass it the syntax node here. I don't think this is convertible. I'd be surprised if it was. Yeah. So how do we get the syntax tree? I guess also from the project.
I'm trying to join again in case you get any.
Cool. Tree. Oh, that's on the document, right? Document dot tree. Get syntax tree async. Pass the cancellation.
I'm back.
Would you like to go ahead and try to pass now? We now have the tree extracted and passed it to the get options.
Yes, let's see if I can write tree.
And easy. Now that, and from there we can now say try get value.
What?
Because these are returning analyzer config options, and we can try to get the value out of this. This has a try get value where we can pass in the key, the generated code, and get the value out of there.
Okay.
So that's generated underscore. Well, I will post this. I will duplicate this from the test because we got it already. Generated code.
Thank you. And probably in a string.
Oops. Yes. And we also need, I'll do a new line here. We also need maybe let's do it like so. But this now returns, well, this returns a Boolean, but also whether it was found or not, and the value that it finds as a string. So we also need to pass in the out parameter, or the out argument in that case.
Oops.
That's good.
Value?
Yeah, it's called value. Okay. This really is a string, but it really is a nullable string. And this is now cool with this, what this try get value as an annotation. It says not, although this is a nullable string, it says not null when true. So when this method returns true, the string is not null. talked about
Okay.
annotations in a previous episode. So now we
If
need
you want to
to
look at our previous episodes, head to our YouTube channel and you can look them all up.
Now, this string could really be anything. This could be true, false, or some bogus thing, or empty. This could be really, or 1, 2, 3, or hello.
What? Okay. Yes.
So this could really be anything. So we now need to parse if this is parsable to a Boolean. Do you know how we can try to parse a Boolean?
I bet there's like a try parse. Or like
On? Where is the try parse on?
On value?
No, because that's just a string, but on the
Oh.
Boolean type.
Yes. Project.
So we could
no.
On the Boolean type itself.
Okay.
So we can say, if you now do another.
Oops. Where am I? Like this?
Yes.
Boolean.
Dot. And this has some parse or try parse.
Try parse. Oops. I swear I clicked on try parse. I swear. Okay.
And this try parse now in return, this gets a string and returns a Boolean result, but only if this bool is true. So when this bool is true, this bool result will be, if it was a true or false, then this bool result will be what it is. If it's anything else, then try parse returns false. So we now can put this into a if.
Okay.
And also, since this try parse also has an out, we need to parse in this value. We need to pass this value now.
Yes. Oh no.
And we also have an out parameter here as well. Oh, this is part of the try parse.
Oops.
And
what is going on? Do you see the same thing?
Yes, formatting is weird currently. Maybe why there is a bit. Actually, I can't edit my. I can't edit it. Okay, cool.
Very good.
Something's a little bit off.
Yeah.
And now
it's
we
not
know.
my fault.
And now we can check if this is true. Now it's generated code. So we continue the loop. Continue. Something is off
weird.
with our auto completion.
Yeah.
And I cannot delete this anymore. Well, yes, I can.
Okay.
So now I'm curious if this test is now passing. Maybe it isn't. Nope. But it could also be, where did we add it to? That's the remove enable. But we are on the add disable path.
Oh, come on.
So maybe we also need to add this.
Good catch.
To the remove enable path, where we now just do the same thing again. I guess we may want to refactor this into a method.
But not today.
And when we run this now. It passes.
Woohoo!
So that works.
Well done.
And if we go to the test and say, you know what, this is not generated code false, it should fail
never
again.
Trust a green test.
Yeah. Well, also if we add some bogus, the hello world. My backspace button doesn't work anymore. That's interesting.
Yes.
So it's a little bit. So what I type from now on is a little bit weird. It's not immediately committed. Can never go back.
It's okay. I'm kind of like happy that it happens to you, because I do feel like sometimes, because I say it almost every episode, and then I feel like some of our viewers think I might be silly or like.
No, something is off currently with
something is off with the IDE. So
with our share code with me session.
Oh, with
cool.
the session, yeah.
So what we now implemented Waslin style is use this EditorConfig generated code to understand whether a code is generated or not.
Awesome.
We do have this Waslin utilities, right? Waslin utilities, the one that we took a check-in earlier. So I still cannot do backspace, but what we can do now is also have a method here to do it for the syntax tree.
Ta-da. No, I can't do it either. Oh my goodness.
Oh, well, it's not. It's committed. Syntax tree.
Yeah.
And we basically built a very similar method, which syntax tree, which will very much resemble what Waslin is doing as well in their implementation. And where we can now just paste this one in. Where we we do it on a do we need the project? Well, we need the project as well.
Okay.
Or at least we need the analyzer options. Analyzer config options. This is what we need. So we can say options dot. Is it this one? No, it's this one, right? Options dot get options. This is surprising me now.
Yeah.
No. Oh, there's the try get. My bad. Immediately. Oh, then we don't need the
what
syntax tree here. Okay. No, we have it like so.
Okay.
We do just options try get value. It's out. It's a little bit difficult. Is it generated code? Then we try to parse it, and if it is, well, we can just return the result.
Yep.
Return result.
Yep.
Otherwise, we return false.
Yep.
And we just need to pass in the options, right? Go up to this method. And we now in here, we do get the syntax tree. And I totally forgot now what we did here. Waslin utilities dot is generated code. We need the options. So we can ask the document, now the project. Yep. Dot has options dot provider dot get options for this tree. And then can check, is this generated code? Analyzer options. I think we used it already.
Okay.
And if then, so we continue. And now we factored also into a nice method.
Perfect.
And now, do we also want to give it a try for the other thing where we now run into a little bit of a problem with the spacing that we now need to find out ourselves?
A little bit. I think we should give it a try. That's kind of what we set out to do. Like we just got sidetracked with the generated code issue. So let's try it. And we're gonna try it with this NuGet package thing, or
yes.
Yeah.
Which will be, so this is available as an EditorConfig.
Yep.
Package. That's a library. So we should be able to go to. Where do we need this? Excuse me?
Like, should we star it or something?
We can do that later, yes.
Yeah. If you haven't already, you can also give us a star.
We go to, let's find EditorConfig. Should be this one. I hope I don't want to install anything wrong. Let's check briefly on, do we have it on NuGet? Or we could also do it like, if I'm not 100% certain, we could do it with a command line. and say .NET add package, name of package.
Yeah.
Just to be sure, now we have EditorConfig in 0.15. And the usage is, well, we create a new config parser.
Yeah.
Let's see what also is there. Yeah. And with that parser, we can then pass in a file name, and then we get some properties out of there.
That would be nice.
So where we now call basically in here, how do we get this intent here? Maybe again, maybe let's create a method, private static void get indent.
Yep.
And we have, I think we only have a file name. And then here we then do the parser thing.
Yep.
And get intent. And we want to do this now for, well, this should return a string, right? And we want to do this for our project dot file path.
File path, easy.
Now, would you like to give that a try?
Sure. Well, so,
as long as editing and so on is working for us.
Okay.
Maybe let's just start up. Yeah. Let's create a new EditorConfig parser.
New. Wait, no. Oh, okay. I can't go back. Edit config parser. Yes.
Let's assign this to a variable.
Yeah, that's what I
yes.
wanted to backspace for. Parser?
Parser sounds good, yeah.
All right.
Let's see what the parser has for us.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can actually, well, we know already, we can now do parser.parse and pass in the file name to get a configuration.
So, so should we have like config?
Well, we can also chain it if you'd like,
and then
yeah.
Parse. And then file name. And then
and this config now, okay, this config now has properties. And this properties, that's just a, well, that's, no, let's come to that later. Ooh. Oh. Okay, cool.
Is that wrong?
Almost. No. Well, yeah. Yes. But
nice.
Only a little bit.
What? Only a little
because
bit.
we need intent style and intent size.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
I'm just pasting that here, also intending intent size, because this is what we're gonna need later. So this will be the intent style.
Oh no. Wait. I-L-E.
But be careful, this really is a Boolean, because the try get value really returns a Boolean.
Yes.
This out string here, this is I believe what we intended to be.
Okay. So
this will be the intent style. And this is
just go away.
Yeah, let's put it in an if so that we know if it was found.
If this, then
this means
wrong.
We find that. No, that's correct.
Okay, good.
Well, no, it's not, because now we know it's the style. If it is it tabs or spaces, and in case it's space, so if it is space, then we need to ask the options again for the intent size.
No. If.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. This is like, yeah. This is like, you know, when you do like exercise, but have like weights on your wrists and like ankles. This is exactly what it feels like coding, but without a backspace. Okay.
Should we briefly restart IDE?
No, we can do it.
Doesn't take too
long.
We're
almost there.
This may save more time. Okay.
Maybe you're right, but maybe not. Okay, I don't know. Kind of feel like. All right. Oh no.
Does it just say something? So if the intent style is space, then we want to find the option indent size.
Oh my goodness. Okay, then is it config dot
Yes.
properties dot try get value?
I'll paste in since I have it in my clipboard,
Yes,
the indent size. And then we get an out variable indent size.
What happened? No, but I can do backspace again. See?
Ah, cool.
I can't do autocomplete anymore properly, but
now we need to put this in another if.
What?
Because
wait, what?
this again returns a boolean, so let's put this in another.
Oh my goodness!
Yep.
Yes, of course. Thank you. I keep forgetting that. Okay. Yes.
And then this returns the intent size. Yes, but now if the intent size, actually, this is kind of an integer.
Not a
intent
string.
size is an integer. So now we need to try parse this to an integer. Very similar as we tried to parse the boolean.
Oh. What? Okay.
When we tried to parse the boolean, we said boolean.try parse. Now for an integer, we can do pretty much the same thing.
Int 46? 64?
Let's do an int 32. You can also just write the int keyword because that really is an alias.
Okay. That was exciting. Both. All right. Int dot try parse. And then we need indent size. And then we can.
And again, this now returns again a boolean if it succeeds. So if it, because again, the user could just add anything. I mean, I could go ahead and the EditorConfig and there's intent size. I can add hello world. Now this is quite difficult to pass to an integer.
Okay, so we need an out.
Yes.
No, that's not what I did.
Well, I think there is. Yeah.
Out var.
We can't use the same. Oh, more like so. Yes. And now with that, we can create a new string. So what we can do now is I return now a new string. You may have never seen this. This is why I'm because string has a constructor that takes where is it? Character. That's not the one I was searching for, but it does it as an overload that takes a character and then an amount of values, how often this character should print. Jumping to sharplab. So if we do new string, we can say the character should be A, and I want this character 10 times. And then we get a string with 10 A's. This is now what we want to do. So we now want a space, well, with the indent size. With the indent size value, of course.
Good.
But what do we do if any of these ifs fail?
Then we just, wait.
We also need something for the tab.
Yeah.
So in case indent style is a tab, then we just return the tab character as a string.
And should we do an if again, or is there no way we could ever get anything else?
We can do an if. We could also do an else if, how you prefer. Doesn't quite matter.
Okay.
If or else if, how you prefer.
If indent style is what was it?
Tab.
Tab. Yes. Tap is something else. On tap. Okay.
Now we need to return the tab character as a string. Do you know how to do the tab character, or how to escape the tab character?
No.
You can do this via, just returning a string here.
Yep.
And with backslash, you can escape certain characters.
Yeah.
And if you do \t, that's now the tab character. We see that Writer does format this a little bit differently. Does it also have help for that? We can again go to sharplab. If I were to, let's say, do an interpreted string, or just a regular string, if I say TTT, okay, that's just TTT. But if I were to \t, now we see this really is a tab here.
Yep.
And we could make this all tabs. But what we print now is tab, space, tab, space, tab.
Got it.
Well, we could maybe signify that by doing underscores like after every character. And then we see tab, space, tab, space, tab. And yeah, but like this really is, excuse me?
Like Morse code, right?
Ooh, yes. Kind of. And this escape character really is a char. So like a character must always be at least a character. So could be a space, could be a T, or \t. Well, this really is a singular character, the tab character. But what if we have neither? Then what if the indent style never is found in the first place?
Then we say big problems. No, exception. We throw an exception.
Yes. We could, but then the
we just set our own.
Yes,
no?
exactly.
We just do our own default. That's what we said before, where we can just style your project whichever way we like. So make sure you have your EditorConfig in your project.
You can do some randomizing.
Yeah.
If it's the April Fool's Day, then we go crazy. Yeah.
Then we go crazy. So be prepared for that. Better clean up your EditorConfig. All right. But so then this actually begs the most important question of the evening, which I've been waiting to ask you this entire time. What do you prefer, spaces or tabs?
Let's not go. Well, we're already quite on time. This would not. Well, actually, it's
well, we need a default.
I prefer tabs.
Okay. There you go.
But it's very common to have spaces in CS projects. It's very, very common.
Then we don't need an if, do we?
I think more code. Well, yes, we do.
Because
we need. What if? No, well, it could be. A user could set, could maybe make a mistake, and to find the test, we could say in this EditorConfig, it could be something. Now, what is that?
Tab.
We just ignore that. We shouldn't. Well, okay, in this case, we could throw an exception and say, hey, this indent style is weird. Now, this is the question.
But with exactly that message.
Well,
like,
if
good that indent style is weird.
we could we could do that. So if the indent style is neither space nor tab, but something invalid, we could throw an exception and say invalid, we don't know what to do, or we assume our default. Likewise, for the indent size, if it is like -5, that's difficult to indent, or also have something that is not an integer, we could also again throw an exception and say, hey, indent size is that, we don't know how to deal with that. Or in either case, we fall back to our default. What do you prefer? Here we actually could throw.
Yeah, I think we should throw. Because you never know, things might change. There might be like a third thing that sort of comes along, or like names change, or I don't know, something happens, and then we don't want to do the wrong thing. So I'd say we throw, and then but if it's not found, so if the indent style is not found at all, then we can assume our default.
So then let's do at the very bottom of the method, should we hit that, let's return our default, which I think we previously had a single space.
Yes. Where is it? Here.
Mhm.
No. Is it? Okay, good.
Yes.
Because
here's the error and says all code paths must return a value.
All right. Yes, that's a good hint. Can I do this? I forgot what. This one.
Let's do a single space.
Single space. Oh yeah.
In
What?
last episode, we had a single space as a tab character. So let's apply that as our default. So we don't change the behavior of what we written last time. We just now enhance it with if something else is found.
Okay.
And cool. So if
Yes.
this value is not found, if it is not space nor tab, then it's kind of invalid. So we could throw here an exception saying that this is
in an
bad.
else.
We don't really need an else in this case. We can't just throw.
Okay.
Because in case we find it, we do return.
Oh yeah.
So we could just throw if it's neither of them.
New.
Not sure. Is invalid maybe some format exception? Or an invalid operation exception? No, invalid operation exception is not quite right, but format exception isn't also. I guess we need our own exception, but yeah.
Okay.
What do you prefer? I guess we have one episode coming up with dealing with all of our exceptions to get them right, because we currently kind of throw some stuff. And what will also be cool, I think, let's take a look at the constructors that are available. Yeah, only the message. Yeah. So let's also pass in the indent style that we found to the message so that the user knows, hey, this is what we found. This is neither tab nor space.
So I need this. Like this. Indent style.
That's good.
Okay.
Cool. Now, in case of the indent size is not parsable to an integer, this would be this. Here we need an else.
Yes.
We need to throw, yes.
You need to throw?
Yes, but here we do need an else.
Oh.
Because, okay. Wait.
Sorry, you said it, I didn't listen.
Because it could be, oh yeah, what do we do? Well, I'll come to that in just a second. All
right, if it's not indent size, not possible.
No, wait a minute, my bad. Here we need to throw, because this is intent size is not found, my bad. We need to throw here in an else, because if indent size is not an integer.
Oh, yeah. Try pass, throw new format exception? No.
That's also, yes, let's stay consistent with the exceptions that we throw. Also with the message, something similar.
Intent size, and we need the $sign, and we need this.
Cool.
Okay.
Let's see if we now covered all the cases. We have, what if we don't find intent style at all? We return empty. What if we do find intent style and it's neither tab nor space? Then we say,
Yeah.
What if it is a tab? Well, return a tab. If it's a space, we additionally look for indent size. What should happen if it is space, but we do not find an indent size?
Default.
Default. Cool. And I think this is what will happen, because if we don't find it, we fall through here. We don't go in here. So we return here. Actually, as a bit of optimization, I think we could make this as an else, because technically we could hit this if, but not this one, so that we don't do another check here, because this can't be true.
Yeah.
And which means we could actually fall through to this exception. So I guess we do need an else. You were right initially, because what if it is a space, but we do not find an indent size? We end up here, and then we throw an exception here. So I guess this needs to be an else.
Okay. Oops. There are shortcuts for this, but I don't know them. And no, my formatting.
Looks good, looks good, looks good.
Okay.
Looks good, cool. And yeah, in case of it's an indent style space, but we don't find an according size, then we fall back to our default. So that looks good. Eric has a question about, is indent size different for tabs and spaces? Tabs has the advantage of setting a preferred indent size, which has the benefit of individuals with disabilities. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I think this is only visual. I may be wrong. I guess we need to test this briefly. We can set EditorConfig. We can set the indent style, and there is the indent size, where when set to tab width will be used. But I think tab width is nothing that we print. We just print one tab. The tab width is now interpreted by the tool. Let me test this assertion that I just made. Let's go back to our little test project here. Let's say we now do, for all of the files, or for the C# file, we say we want to have the indent style to be tab. If we do also an indent, well, it actually says if it's tab, then the value of tab width will be used. But if tab width isn't found, it defaults to the value of indent size. So I guess both should kind of apply. If the indent size here is, let's say, 100. Oh, yeah, it's not a string. Now, I think, let's do a method. Static void method. Yeah. We now have a very, very big tab. Maybe let's do something more reasonable. Let's do a 20 here. And we see it's still just a singular tab character. And if I change this to a 10, it's still just this one character, but it's just basically the rendering of the IDE that is changing. Let's do a console.writeline so that we see hello world. Now all I do is changing this indent size to, let's say, a 5. And save it. Now this decreases because it's the equivalent of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. But that's just rendering. It's still just a singular tab character. It's not suddenly 5 tab characters or something. It's still a single tab character. But how the renderer now, what Eric is also suggesting is that depending now, I could set this to 15, maybe. You know, maybe I have troubles. If I take my glasses off, I would have troubles, and I would still, with a small indentation, I would have difficulties with detecting the. Well, I would have a lot of difficulties, but it wouldn't be as apparent. Scopes wouldn't be so apparent anymore. But if I would maybe do something larger, well, no ideas. If it's like super petite, maybe just one. Yeah, I mean that's also with glasses already difficult for me to read.
For sure.
And in case of there is a tab width, I think then this tab size is just ignored. When I do 100 here, then we have the 100. So the indent size and the tab width in case of tab is only for the renderer. What we do is just we insert one tab.
Perfect. So we can't break anything there. Good question.
This is something splendid question. Cool. And I think if we go to the C# project builder and we use that from here, we get the indent. And this could, let's see where this goes. If we run this test, is this the correct test? Yes. Well, now this test should break suddenly because we now have different indentation, but it doesn't. But did I add it again to the wrong method? Possibly. That's the remove enable test. And we are in the... Oh, wait a minute. It's in our workspace. No, that should kind of work. Well, let's debug. Let's do a bit of a debugging and see what's happening.
That would have been nice.
Indeed. Cool. So we go in there. We have here our file name. This is
Yep.
our CS project.
Yep.
Let's actually also open this in the File Explorer to see. Here it is. So we have here our EditorConfig, and this EditorConfig contains indent style space 10. Now we go in. It doesn't find anything.
Oops. Config is then what is?
It doesn't find anything.
Oh, come on. Okay, but wait. So we used the parser wrong, didn't we?
I don't think so. Well, not according to the code snippet. Because it basically just usage of the library.
New parser or configuration
Paste it
parser
in.
parse. Yeah.
This is quite what we do. We create a
Name.
new config parser. We call configuration
For
properties.
each.
No, wait a minute. Parser. And then we call configuration.properties.
Properties.
And we try and get it because this properties is just a dictionary. So that's good. Because what I mentioned earlier is, there is like, they may already do some parsing for us, like the intent style and the indent size, but it doesn't seem to
It doesn't find anything.
that, which fills my heart with sadness.
Sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
End of line null, indent size null, and the properties bag is very empty.
Is the editor config, is it like just a star wildcard, or is it like for a specific?
For the CS Podge, yes. Are you onto something?
Well,
Are you onto something?
I'm not sure.
Are you onto something? Yes, you are, because we said for C# and Visual Basics, yes, very
Yes.
good. Splendid. So of course it doesn't work. If we do CS Proj or VB Proj, haha.
You also need it in the. This is in the. No, it's
Yes,
in the.
you're very good. We also
arrange.
need it in the, otherwise the assertion would fail. Very good.
Okay.
Yes. We get
Perfect.
stuff.
Woohoo!
We get stuff. There's also a tab with. I think this is from the EditorConfig that I had in the root now of my project. Maybe we should do for the test case, we should do a root true. Anyway, now we kind of try to find the indent size. Well, we do find it. It's 10. So, well, first of all, we found this is space, and we found it's 10. So we now create a string that contains 10 spaces, and
Woo!
no, it doesn't. No, it shouldn't pass. It should
Why?
be different now. Yeah, because we now have
No. Why should it
Yes,
fail?
it should fail because now we use a totally different indent style. We use 10 spaces. We had previously 1 space. So this generated file should look totally different.
I'm so happy. Okay.
It should look
Alright.
totally different.
So.
But this now could be some problem with our C# project. I think there's no problem with our C# project builder. Our EditorConfig resolution works perfectly, I would think, because, well, let's actually find it out. If you go to a C# project builder and go to the we save. No, actually, this is when we load. Right? Wait a minute. We don't do that. Wait a minute. What do we do actually when we save? we do call toString. Let's debug. Oh, credits for the find of the
Yay!
CS via
Thank
VB
you.
of the
It is
section
rare.
name. The section
It
name.
does happen. Aw. That makes me
So-
happy. I got a golden star.
Our indent is here. We have those. Here they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces. Yes.
Okay,
Do you
good.
see them? There's very small dots. Not sure if you
Yeah,
can
I see them.
But yes, so we do set the indent chars here. This is what we. So it works until here, but there may still be something wrong with our with the XML wider settings that we use here. And to then save this document, I guess there is something off here. So this doesn't seem to apply the rules. But if it was, here they are. It is working. And if we were to maybe let's do the breakpoint here. And if we were to say like 300 spaces, yes. Now our indent here that we set now has.
Oh.
Why does it not have 300 spaces?
I didn't expect that.
I would have expected 300 spaces now. Now this makes me sad. Because we do set the indent, passed it through.
Yeah.
Here's the indent, and we set the indent.
Yep.
And we invoke this from here. We invoke this from here, and this should be our. Here's actually our indent. Why does this not? Do we have a problem somewhere else? Well, we find those 10, but why do?
Yeah, that's strange.
Why do 300 not work?
Yeah.
This is troubling me.
Oh, did you put it in the arrange or the assert?
Yes. You're on fire today.
Yes,
very good.
And I want another golden star, please.
Still have the breakpoint? Yes. And now we have,
Yes.
Here are now our 300 spaces. I guess barely visible, but
yeah,
here they are.
Awesome. Cool.
So that works.
So we do pass them through, but we don't apply them properly.
Something with our XML skills,
Yeah.
XML reader, writer, but we don't apply correctly, apparently. But if it was working as we would expect, this test now would fail and say the formatting is totally weird.
Yes. And on the EditorConfig front, I guess we did everything right. Like we.
Yes, definitely.
For this episode, I'm quite happy with what we achieved, right?
What we could think about if we use these properties, because but I'm not sure if we then, because what we could ask if the indent style is, well, either tab or space.
Yeah.
But then what we would lose, I think, because this then is nullable, I think this would only then, well, because what if we do something weird? Let's say the indent style is now hello, and the indent size is also hello, or the indent style is 1 to 3. So this should not work. Now, what would EditorConfig parser create out of that? I can imagine it would just keep them null. So only if they are valid, I can imagine. Let's see, the indent size is null.
No.
The indent style is also null because they are quite invalid. If we make them valid again, did I again do? Yeah, no, this time I did on the correct file. If I make them valid again, we would get them correctly. So the style now should be this. Yeah, this is now the space enum. And the indent size will be 300.
Awesome.
If it even has a name, a number of columns. Cool. Oh, also use tab width false. So the indent size could also encode that, right? So if we were to tab, then this one doesn't matter. Let's see what happens now. If we go to the indent style, is now tab, and the indent size is. Oh no, it has to. Never mind. But use tab width. Oh, this is when we. This is when we set tab width. I set this to 900. I think that's tab width, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So we have on the indent size now. Do we? Let's see what we would get. On the indent style, well, still tab, yes. On the indent size, we have. Oh no, it's still false.
No.
Not sure, but I guess there is a
Why?
tab. Well, there is a tab width, which is shouldn't this be 900?
So we need to. Yes, you're right.
Actually, we can pass the entire thing. I would expect this not to be
900.
Because it says if the specification says if indent size should be the tab width, right?
Yeah.
Is there maybe? Did we just discover a bug? What if we don't have the indent size, only the tab width? Is this maybe not to specification that if the tab width is set, do you know what I mean?
No.
No.
Sorry, I'm
tab width.
a bit lost.
So the tab width now is 900.
It's 900, so it overwrites it. But why would it? Because it's actually below it, so it comes after. So I expect
that as well.
If anything.
And also what it says is that if the tab width, well, it defaults to indent size. But what if
it's set, it shouldn't default?
Because when indent size, when set to tab, the value of tab width, if specified, will be used. So it actually should be 900, the indent size, and also the tab width. So maybe there is a bug in the parser. Maybe we do a pull request at some time, or ask. First, maybe create an issue and see, hey, is this correct? Did we get something wrong? And then maybe next year we can do a bit of a. Maybe we contribute to other projects next year.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
Where I'm trying to get at is, would you like to? Because when we use the built-in properties, I don't think we can really determine whether, for example, the indent style wasn't set or was set incorrectly to hello world or to invalid string. Would you like to throw if it's invalid, or would you like to ignore if it's invalid?
Throw. Because
then we need our custom logic. Otherwise, we could have switched to the provided logic.
Well, in that case, we can switch just to try it out if you like. But I think it makes more sense for the reasons I said previously, to throw if something's off, or if we can't handle something, because otherwise you have weird behavior and you're not quite sure, and this way you at least know why we didn't do what, they'd asked us to do.
Then we
Up to?
will keep it that way.
Okay. Well, I
Although-
actually...
Although, because when we hit the CLI, our CLI workspace, that's quite late. At that time, when we apply the changes, we do this first, and then we write the rest of the changes. So because now I was wondering, because we do change C# project, CS files, and the CS project file.
Yep.
Those are the files that we change. So one or many CS files and one C# project file.
Yeah.
If we were to write the C# project files first and then fail when we write the C# files first, and then we would fail later when saving the C# project file, we would have saved a bit of an inconsistent state. We only did half of the way, and then we throw. So that would be weird if we should either do everything or nothing.
Yeah. Correct.
But since we first would we first do this get intent. So we first say, is this valid? So we first do write the C# project, and only if that succeeds, we do then modify the rest of the C# files. So we don't leave any halfway state behind, and we either do full or nothing, which I like.
Perfect.
And then our C# project builder and our CLI workspace that we built last time. Oh, this has been quite a journey. So we wanted to write both C# files, but also see the CS project file. We couldn't write the C# project file with the MS Build workspace. So we built our own workspace. But in order to write the C# file, we needed our own type to do that. Yeah. And for that, we even now pass in the spacing according to the EditorConfig. Well, this could be considered over-engineering for our tool.
Now, the two of us over engineering, that's an impossibility.
Okay.
No, it was, I think I learned a lot about editor configs, and I feel like I'm going to use them from now on, to be honest. So for me, it was a good episode.
Likewise. Learn about how Wassling can deal with it. Well, we also fixed another issue, just like we drove by another issue, the generated code as well.
Yep.
So
nice journey.
It was amazing.
That was really cool. Do you know what else is really cool? Oh. Thank you so much, Eric, and also thank you for all of your help and your great questions. It's always such a pleasure to have you, and I really appreciate you spending the evening with us. It means a lot. But yeah, I was going to say, do you know what else is really cool? I know there is this like a conference going on. There's a really cool speaker who has some really cool. I think we should share with our viewers.
Okay. So I'll be at the Update conference in Prague, and this is in next week.
Yep.
And I'll be talking about mutation testing.
Awesome. That's another one of our
upcoming episodes. Yes. So
yeah. Okay.
Yes, we do have an open issue for mutation testing. Also, what I'm quite excited about is to meet the lead engineer of Roslyn. Can I find now? Where is he? Chad Parsons is also there.
Oh wow.
The lead engineer of Roslyn. So maybe ask him, hey, why can't I use EditorConfig for the C# project thing? Maybe I don't. I wouldn't dare.
But yeah, another familiar face.
I'm also gonna meet Dennis again, that we had also a couple of episodes back when we talked about fluent assertions.
Yes, absolutely. Very good episode. So give him my best when you see him.
I will do so. We also earlier There's one comment I forgot to put is do we want to do short videos on this trivia thing?
That would be really good. And do you know what, Eric? Like, that was the very first time Stefan and I sat down and were like, do you want to do like something like a stream, kind of? The very first thing that I said is like, well, maybe let's not do like a long stream. Let's do like bite-sized videos. And we did that once, and it was kind of like, the stream is now like we completely lost track of time. It was way too long, and then I was like, okay, let's stick to the stream. I feel like that's more our format. But it was originally the original kind of idea, I suppose, that we had, wasn't it? So maybe now that we have a little bit more, I have a little bit more experience. I mean, you've been doing this for years. Maybe it would be a good thing to revisit, because I do feel like it's a lot more manageable to like watch a 10-minute video than to spend like 3 hours with us on a rush like Monday morning.
That is correct. So is this our 2025 project?
One of them, yes.
One of them. Well, alongside the stream, of course.
Yes, and alongside some other things, maybe.
Alongside, fingers crossed, so we may have something cooking that we hope gets well done.
Awesome. Well, yeah, if you're still with us, thank you again so much for joining us this evening. If you haven't already, please subscribe to one of our many social media channels to keep updated with our upcoming shows, which is particularly important tonight because we don't actually have a date yet for our next stream, but we will soon, and we're gonna post it as soon as we know.
Socials, I'm just posting in the chat. See our socials for the next stream, and well, until then, we'll be back.